Good morning, guys. Today we're going to talk about Unit 14. It's titled Schools Around the World. We are going to compare between schools in Egypt, Japan, and Brazil. There are similarities and differences between them. Through this text, we are going to know the differences and similarities between all of them. Let's start. All children in Egypt have to go to school from the age of 6 to 15. They can go to nursery school from the age of 4, but they don't have to go. At primary and preparatory school, all students have to wear a uniform. Japanese students don't have a uniform at primary, but they have to wear a uniform at secondary school. They have to clean the school building at lunchtime. Most students practice sports or music after school. Many students also have private lessons. Although they don't have to go to these lessons, many students go because they want to do well in their exams. The last type, or the last part, is about Brazil. In Brazil, students don't have to go to schools for more than 5 hours a day. Schools have different opening times. Lessons can be in the morning, afternoon, or evening. Brazilian children start school when they are 6. Now, let's move to the following exercise, or exercise 3. Complete the sentences with words from the article. You have nursery, primary, preparatory, and uniform. Number 1 is done, no part of it. All children go to primary and what schools? Of course, preparatory. Number 2, many children in Egypt go to, it should be nursery school before they are 6 years old. Number 3, our school uniform is white t-shirt or is white shirt with black trousers or skirt. Number 4. In number 4, you are going to decide whether these sentences are true or false. Number 1 is done. Number 2, in Japan, students have to clean their classrooms before school. Of course, this is wrong, false. Number 3, some students in Japan have lessons outside school. This is true. And the last one, there are 3 different school times for children in Brazil. This is also true one. When we're going to move to the grammar, we see that we have, or we're talking about, let's move to the grammar page first. Yes. Here in lesson 2, the grammar, as you see in the grammar box, is about obligation and lack of obligation. Means when you are obligated or when it's a must to do something, when it's not necessary to do this thing, for example. So there are some forms to be used like have to, don't have to, has to, and doesn't have to. Pay attention, guys, that the negation form of it is don't and doesn't have to, because some students say it haven't to. Haven't to is wrong. Okay. For example, I have to eat. I have to eat vegetables, but I don't have to eat sweets or candy. So if he said I haven't to eat sweet or candy, this is not right. Okay. So again, the negation form is don't and doesn't have to. We use, now we're in this box, okay, which is page 25. We use have or has to talk about rules and things that are necessary. For example, we have to go to school 5 days a week. Another example, he has to go to school on time. The following case, we use the negative form don't have to and doesn't have to talk about things that are not necessary. For example, we don't have to go to school on Saturdays. He isn't late, he doesn't have to hurry. This is another example. Then, The form of the yes/no question is do or does, okay, do or does, then subject, then have to, then infinitive form. For example, do you have to get up at 7 o'clock? Yes, I do, or no, I don't. Another example, does she have to eat breakfast? Yes, she does, or no, she doesn't. The following case and the last point in this grammar part, you can also make question using a question word. For example, when do you or when do we have to finish our homework? Why does she have to go now? Okay, in exercise 2, complete these sentences with the, let me check whether we have the answers here or not. Okay, regarding exercise 1, underline the examples of have to in these sentences and circle don't have to. This is a very simple exercise. You can pause and answer it, then check the answers directly. Here are the answers. Okay, now let's move to the following exercise. Okay, I see that we have only the answers written for exercise 1. So we're going to answer exercise 2 just orally, and you can write them after me. Complete these sentences with the correct form of have or has to, or don't or doesn't have to. Don't forget to change the form with don't and doesn't. You are going to say only have to. Of course, you're not going to say has to, or for example, doesn't has to, wrong. So it will be doesn't have to. Number 1 is done. Number 2, all students, what? Come to school on time? Exactly, it should be have to. Number 3, people, space, drive on the right in Egypt. Okay, it should be where? Yes, people have to. Okay, people have to drive on the right in Egypt. Number 4, Hassan, what? Learn this vocabulary because he already knows it. He already knows it, so he doesn't have to. The last one, my aunt, what? Work at night, sometimes because she's a nurse. It should be has to. Okay, let's move to the following lesson. Here you can match these in exercise 1. You can match these words and the pictures. Simply do them, or of course this exercise again is not important, but what's important is the collocations or the expressions used themselves, because you will find them in other exercises. So you have do the washing up, dry the dishes, make your bed, set the table, sweep the floor. The order will be C, D, B, E, and A. Okay, and number 2, which of these jobs do you have to do at home? You have to answer this question yourself. It's related to you. Number 2, listen to a survey. And in this survey, wait till I see the following part. Number 2 is done. Okay, 2. Okay. Listen to a survey. In this survey, you have 2 questions. In which conversation is the speaker talking to a friend? This is the first question. Number 2, how do you know? This is the second question. Let's listen. And because I'm going to play it only once, so read this table as well. Listen again and complete the table. We have 3 speakers, as you see. Okay, you are going to put tick or cross according to the action which is done. We have sweep the floor, make your bed, set the table, do the washing up, and dry the dishes. So listen carefully and answer.
Unit 14. A. She goes to secondary school. Student's book. Unit 14. Lesson 3. Exercise 2. Listen to a survey. 1. Good morning. I'm doing a survey about jobs in the house. Do you mind if I ask you some questions about jobs in the house? Not at all. Which jobs do you have to do in the house? For example, could you tell me whether you have to sweep the floors? No, I don't. Do you have to make your bed? Oh yes, I have to do that every day. What about helping with meals? Could you tell me whether you have to set the table? No, I don't. But I have to do the washing up and dry the dishes too. Thank you for answering my questions. 2. Excuse me, could I ask you some questions? Yes, of course. Could you tell me whether you have to sweep the floors at home or make your bed? I don't have to sweep the floors, but I have to make my bed. Could you tell me whether you have to set the table? Yes, my sister and I both have to do that. Who has to do the washing up? My sister has to do that. I have to dry the dishes. 3. Hello, Farida. Is it okay if I ask you some questions? It's for my survey. That's fine. What is your survey about? It's about jobs in the house. Which jobs do you have to do at home? Do you have to sweep the floors? Yes, I do. I have to do that every day. Do you have to make your bed? Yes, I do. What other jobs do you have to do in the house? I have to set the table, do the washing up, and dry the dishes too. You are very helpful, Farida. Student's book, Unit 14.
Okay, so let's return again to question 2 on page 26. In which conversation is the speaker talking to a friend? The answer is number 3. Why or how did we know this? We know this because of the dialogue they use. Hello Farida. Is it okay if, etc. So this means that in the function box here, here you're supposed to know how to ask and answer formally, questions formally and informally. If you're talking to someone who you don't know, so in this case you are going to use formal ways like, do you mind if I ask you some questions about? Excuse me, could I ask you some questions about? And could you tell me whether you sweep the floor or and so on, okay? Then, in the following part, asking and answering questions informally. Like this for, hello, is it okay if I ask you some questions about? This is informal way which could be asked or which could be used with a friend, for example, or someone who you know, or someone who's younger than you. The following form, do you have to sweep the floor? This is an informal way. Let's move to exercise 3. Okay, here are the answers according to the listening that you have listened to. Okay, you can check your answers right now. Now let's move to lesson 4. Lesson 4, exercise 1. Match the rules and the places or activities. Number 1, you have, again guys, the exercise itself is not important, but the expressions and words used are important, okay? You have to read quietly in a library, of course. Number 2, you have to wear the correct shoes. Should be D, tennis, football, or for basketball. Number 3, you have to look left and right before you cross. Yes, it should be A, the street. Number 4, you have to buy a ticket. Should be B, a bus or a train. And finally, 5 will be C. You don't have to buy anything. It should be in the shop. Okay, number 3, we're going to skip exercise 2. We're going to move to exercise 3. Look at the table on page 26 on the previous page and complete the survey results. Guys, again, the word survey means when you ask some people some questions to know the percentage of those who do this action and those who don't do, okay? So number 1, let's check the answers. Look at, we read it, okay. Number 1 is already answered. Number 2, okay, 1 person has to sweep the floor. 2, 3 people or all of them have to make their beds. And number 3, 2 people have to set the table. Number 4, 2 people have to do the washing up, and 3 people or all people have to dry the dishes. Now, we're going to move to the last page. In exercise 1, this is page 28, okay guys? Number 1, match and make sentences. My brother is 16. He's at, it should be B, it's already answered, secondary school. Number 2, his sister, here. His sister is 7. She's at, it should be D, primary school. Children aged 4 to 6 go to nursery school. Most students in Egypt have to wear a uniform. So the answers will be B, D, C, A. Let's move to exercise 2. Complete the sentences with the correct form of have, or has to, or do or doesn't have to. Number 1 is done. We all have to do jobs in our family. My sister Huda, what? Guys, here you're going to answer it according to this sticky note that you have on the right side, okay? Number 2. My sister Huda, what do the washing up has to? But she should be, yes, doesn't have to dry the dishes. My brother Ashraf should be, has to dry the dishes. He and Huda, yes, it should be, have to make their beds. But they don't, what? But they don't have to set the table. Again, it's according to what's written on the sticky note. Okay, guys? The following. Space, set the table. I have to set the table. That's my job. What jobs do you, space, yes, have to do in your house? The following part, or the following and the last question is complete the questions. Are they formal? So we are going to write F, or informal? So we are going to write I. Number 1. Do you mind if I ask you some questions? This is formal, of course. Number 2 should be this time for answering. This time is for you. Could you tell me whether you have to wear a uniform? This is formal as well. Then 3. Could I ask you some questions? This is number 3, which is formal as well. And finally, is it okay if I ask you some questions? Which is not formal, so you are going to add I, okay? That's all about Unit 14. So you can practice by answering the same unit in the workbook. And that's all for today.